So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Here back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, February 7th or February 3rd. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Thursday, February 3rd here today, not February 7th. I do not know why I said February 7th, but it is February 3rd here today. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday, coming off another night last night where there was a lot of sports, but a ton of disappointment yet again as the Brooklyn Nets fall. I mean, just awful loss. I'm going to talk about it, so I'm not going to get too in depth into it here. The Nets fall, the Knicks fall, both by double digits, and the Islanders were able to not even, or I shouldn't say able, weren't even able to score a goal. So last night in the New York sports area, it was not good. It was ugly. It was bad. It was just about as bad as it gets. Islanders get it shut out. Nets get blown out. Nets lose to a Kings team that's not good. Nets lose by 11. Knicks lose by 12, and the Islanders get shut out. So just about everything that could have went wrong yesterday in New York sports went wrong, and for the basketball teams, it's getting as bad as it gets. And for the hockey team and the Islanders, you end your first half of the season on a disappointing note. And that's the reality of it. So, a really tough night last night. And, you know, the Nets, I'm going to get to them. I'm going to talk about the Nets. I'm going to talk about Harden and everything like that. I mean, just inexcusable. Not going to talk about it much right now because I want to get to the Nets. I want to talk about them. So, not going to give away everything I'm going to say right now. All I could say is I want James Harden off this basketball team as soon as possible. And I'm going to give you reasons why. Last night put me over the edge, just as bad as it could get last night for James Harden. So I'm going to get to it. I'm going to talk about it. But the Knicks lose again last night as well, and Knicks fans feel the same way about Julius Randle, right? He struggles again, and it's time. Julius Randle needs to go. James Harden needs to go. Julius Randle and James Harden have no right. They do not belong in New York anymore. They need to go, they need to leave, and they need to go far, far away because they are both terrible, they are both garbage, and they're both only hurting their basketball teams, not helping them. So, last night, again, it's like every night we feel like it hits rock bottom for basketball in New York, and we find a new low. And last night was that new low with the Knicks losing 120-108 to a good Grizzlies team. In all fairness, nobody expected them to win. But still, it's a loss. A loss is a loss, and losing by 12 is losing by 12, no matter what team you lose against. And for the Nets, it's inexcusable because it's a Kings team that the Knicks beat a couple days ago. A Kings team going into that game who's 18-34 on the season, and now they're 19-34, so they're 25 games below 500. Going into the game, they were 26 games below 500. To lose to a team that badly just can't happen. So, really tough night last night for New York sports as a whole. Luckily tonight, I guess you could say, you kind of get a deep bunk if you're a New York sports fan. You know, Islanders fans Islanders fans get a little bit of a little time off as they head into the All-Star break just like the Rangers. Nets fans get a day off and kind of a day to just complain about James Harden. And Knicks fans kind of just continue that same pattern of pain. So, Nets and Knicks both have a day off today, which is much needed. Nets will be back in action tomorrow night against the Utah Jazz, and I don't know when the next time the Nets will win a game is. Hopefully soon, but I can't guarantee the next win will come anytime soon because they got some really good opponents coming up. And you got the Jazz tomorrow night. Then you have the Nuggets to end the West Coast trip. And the Nets playing the way they are is just simply terrible. So, Nets lose, Knicks lose, Islanders lose. Nets and Knicks both lose by double digits. Islanders get shut out. Tonight we got nothing going on in the world of New York sports. Kentucky did get the win. Very good win for Kentucky. It was ugly. It wasn't pretty, I should say. But it was a good win. You got the win, right? It could have been, and I said that yesterday. It was one of those games that was going to be close. I knew it, but they got the win, and that's all that matters. Kentucky gets the win, so that was good. That was fun to watch. And then I had to watch the Nets, which was really, really tough to see. So, tonight, not much going on in the world of New York sports. Rangers, as we all know, still on the break. 12 days until the Rangers play hockey again. Islanders just head into the All-Star break. No NHL on either as they head into the All-Star break. And the Nets and Knicks both have a day off today. Alrighty, so as for the topics for today, today going to be a little bit of I don't want to call it a negative show because I don't like that, but today's going to be the two topics that I wish I wasn't talking about, I should say, but I'm going to get to anyway. I'm going to talk about James Harden, and on my paper right here, I have it down as a James Harden rant, and I'm going to kind of go on a rant about James Harden. I mean, that's really where we've gotten to this point with Harden and his basketball team, and I apologize if I sound like I'm going in a million different directions. I'm going to try to keep it structured, but sometimes when I talk about a player and I go on a rant about a player, whether it be good or bad, I sometimes go in all different directions. So just be prepared if I'm kind of going everywhere and I'm talking about James Harden. If 1 minute I'm talking about him struggling and then I'm talking about the Nets and maybe I'm talking about the bench. Like if I'm all over the place, you kind of just got to expect that because that's how rants are. You're bouncing back and forth, and you're just trying to get your point across of why James Harden should not be on the team. I can't stand James Harden. I have given up. The James Harden experiment isn't working. It's not going to work. They need to get rid of him, and they need to get rid of him now if the Nets want to save their season. I'll get to that and much more about the Brooklyn Nets. Also want to give you some key numbers and key stats to bring in mind if you're a Brooklyn Net fan today. I also want to get to the Mlb Lockout and the Yankees and the Mets. It doesn't look good. Mlb Lockout, there was a report that came out the other day about it seems at this point inevitable. I struggle with that word. It seems at this point it's inevitable that there will be a delay come spring training. So it seems at this point it's going to happen that spring training is going to be delayed and the season is going to be delayed. And there was no new deal. There wasn't any progress in the recent CBA talks with the MLB owner and the MLBPA, the Players Association. So things don't look good for the lockout. They continue not to look good. And I might sound like I'm repeating myself here, but I'm going to kind of drill the point again why just the way we're heading with baseball could be in a very, very dark place within the next couple of weeks if they can't get something done. And I'll give you some give you some things to back that up. And then I'll get to the New York sports update as well. Not something I really want to be talking about because New York sports right now is terrible. Other than the Rangers, everything stinks. The Islanders the Islanders are struggling. They go into the All-Star break under the NHL 500 mark. Knicks and Nets can't win. And baseball still, both playoff teams, both playoff teams, but both football teams, as we all know, really, if you break it down, right? Jets, Giants both missed the playoff. Knicks, Nets can't win. Islanders not having a good season. Rangers are. Got to give it to them. And you get to the two baseball teams. Who even knows if there's going to be a baseball season? So New York sports right now is kind of in shambles. And hopefully things can turn around sooner rather than later. So we'll get to that anyway. We'll also get to Kentucky because they're the one positive right now as they got the win last night against Vanderbilt and head into a big game this weekend on the road in Alabama against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Big SEC matchup coming up. Alrighty, so a lot to get to today in the podcast. A lot to get to. And with all that being said, this is BSN Podcast and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so both basketball teams, like I said, I'm going to say it again because I just want to drill the point. I've said it a lot of times already today, and I'm going to keep saying it. And like I said, apologize if I repeat myself because it's going to be a lot of the same thing. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but when you're on a 6-game losing streak, you really don't know what else to say. And the Knicks lose last night, 120-108. Not a good loss, not a good game at all. You're at home at the Garden, they're not playing well. And it is a good Grizzlies team, but still, losing by 12, it's not good enough, and Julius Randle yet again disappoints. And for the Nets, last night was just about as bad as it gets. And you know how I've been with the Nets, right? I've been not optimistic. I mean, I talk about them. I mean, I talk about the Nets and Knicks and Rangers and Islanders and all of them every day. I talk about them every day. And in the base, I mean, you know how it is. Every day I do the New York Sports Update. I talk about the games, talk about how each team's doing. I do it every day. I don't talk about them sometimes for 20, 25 minutes. I'll give you a quick, 30-second rundown, but that's sometimes all you need. But last night, right, the Nets are struggling, and there's no doubt about that. 5-game losing streak. And I said last night it's a winnable game, and I actually projected them to win the game last night. I did predict them to win because they're going in against a team in the Kings that are rebuilding, and they're 25 or 26 games below 500 going into the game. With the win last night, they're now 25 games below 500. So they're not a playoff team. They're not anywhere close. They're rebuilding, and they're one of the worst teams in the Western Conference and one of the worst teams in the league. And you go into last night and you completely lay a dud. And I've been, like I said, I'm frustrated with the Nets. I've been really frustrated. It's been tough. It's been really bad. But I've kind of been in a way of slightly patient. I've been, look, you get a couple wins, maybe this thing could turn around. But last night, not just for the Nets, but for one specific player who you know how I've had my feeling on, is James Harden. Last night, the Sacramento Kings game, Nets-Kings, last night, you take a loss 112-101. You lose by 11 to a team that is 25 games below 500. 25. It's not like this is a team that's 34-18 or a team that's 34-19. This is a team that hasn't even won 20 games yet. Hasn't even won 20 games yet. And you get smoked like they did. And last night put me over the edge for the James Harden in a Brooklyn Nets uniform. James Harden, I am begging you, Brooke. I'm begging you. Sean Marks and the Nets organization need to step up. I am begging you. Trade Harden now. Get rid of him. I don't want to see Harden in a Nets uniform for much longer. Trade him now. Whether that's to the 76ers, whether to whatever it is. Trade him to one of the other NBA teams. I don't want to see him in a Nets uniform anymore. Because last night ultimately put me over the edge. He's been bad, and I've talked about it, and I've said it a lot of times. He's been real bad, especially in February. 2 games in February, he's been awful. Oh, good Lord, he's been awful. He's shooting 26.7% in 2 games this February. Only 2 games in, but that's not a good start to a month if you ask me. 26.7% from the field. Last night put me over the edge. 37 minutes, 2 of 11 from the field. That's 18.2%. He went 0 for 5 from 3. Didn't have a free throw. Did not shoot any free throws. 7 rebounds. He did have 12 assists. 3 fouls. 6 turnovers. He turned the ball over 6 times. And he scored 4 points. In 37 minutes, he had 4 points. And you know what last night revealed to the entire NBA world, if they haven't known already? Without free throws, James Harden is not a good basketball player. He's not a good player. Without free throws, without getting fouled, Harden is not a successful player in this league. When he's not getting to the line 10 times a game, and he's not getting 11 of the, if he's not getting to the line 12 times a game, he's getting 11 points from the line. I mean, if you really think about it, if James Harden averages 25 points per game, right? And he gets to the line 11 times, let's say, a game. He makes, let's say, 10 or 11 of those free throws. That's 11 points. He's only really putting up 13, 14 points otherwise. Almost half of his points are coming from the free throw line. And last night it showed that without free throws, James Harden is a nobody. Without free throws, James Harden is not a good player. And the reality is, without free throws, James Harden does not belong on this team. James Harden needs to go. And especially when KD's out, he's injured, and Kyrie's only playing road games, you sometimes need that player to step up. Right? You sometimes need that guy. Every team sometimes has that guy that steps up and makes plays. Kyrie only able to play road games. And in the road games, I mean, to be fair, Kyrie did not play great last night. He had 14 points, went like 5 of 14 from the field. Still better than 4 points and 2-11 shooting and 0 for 5 from 3. But last night, sometimes you need that player to give you that extra juice. All your guys are struggling. Sometimes you need that guy. And when Kevin Durant's out and the big three's not fully healthy, you need that guy. That's why we went out and got James Harden. We go out and got James Harden, not only just to add another superstar to the roster, or we thought it was going to be superstar. He's been far from a superstar. He's been a below-average basketball player the past couple games. That's the reality of it. 4 points is unacceptable. I don't care what your name is. I don't care how big of a name you are. I don't care what you did with the Rockets. I don't care how many MVP trophies you have. I don't care what you did last season in the postseason. 4 points against a Kings team that's not good is unacceptable. And to turn the ball over 6 times and to keep complaining about fouls and to keep saying this and that you're tired of consistency. Instead of you complaining about the team all the time, why don't you be consistent? Why don't you start scoring? Why don't you stop being lazy, complaining for fouls all the time, and actually try to get shots and actually try to set up an offense? Stop holding on to the ball for 18 seconds of the 24-second shot clock. Pass. Try to open up lanes. Try to get to the basket, right? Stop complaining. Stop driving just to draw fouls and stop just trying to get to the free throw line. Try to get some rhythm. Put some structure into this offense. When James Harden's out there, there's no rhythm. There's no structure. This team looks lost when he's out there. And last night was the ultimate, build up. And last night should give us every reason to complain. And the Nets last night, if I was Sean Marks, after that performance last night against that Kings team, James Harden should not be a Brooklyn Net. He needs to go. He needs to get out of here. The Nets need to trade him. He's not good enough. He's not a good locker room guy. He's clearly not a leader. Every other day he's injured. Oh, I slept on my hand wrong. I can't play basketball. Dribble. Oh, let me dribble. Oh, let me pass. Get the ball back. I don't shoot a free throw. I score 4 points. Terrible. He's awful. He needs to go. I'm tired every single night watching the same garbage of James Harden taking the basketball court. And I don't want to hear, oh, well, he was clutch last season, postseason. Did we win the finals? No, we didn't. Man, oh man, are we lucky that KD's on this team. It's just going to show you, too. What did I say when Kevin Durant went down? I said, if Harden and Kyrie could somehow keep this team afloat, I'll be happy about it. Right now, we're not keeping them afloat. And you want to know what else I said? I said, if we come out of this road trip, this West Coast road trip, 2-4, I was going to be upset. And I said, we're going to be in trouble if we come out of this road trip 2-4 or 1-5. Guess what? Right now, on this road trip, we're 0-2. Well, actually, we're 0-3. I apologize. So we're 0-3. And we have 2 more left. So the best we can do is 2-3. 2 more games left. I apologize. We're 0-4 on this road trip, right? Let me see here. We are, I apologize. This is a 5-game road trip. I apologize. 5-game road trip. I messed up. 6. I said, coming out of this road trip, if you're 2-3, okay, good. If you're 1-4, that's not good. I said that, right? Right now, we're 0-3. So the best we can do is, be 2-3. And even that's going to be difficult because we got the Jazz tomorrow night and we got the Nuggets on Sunday. And the Nuggets beat us our final game at home. I mean, if you're a Net fan today and you're not worried about this team, you're not worried about James Harden, or you're still on the James Harden bandwagon, then the reality is, and what Evan Roberts tweeted out today too, a WFAN host who I listen to a ton, he tweeted out today, you're delusional then. That's the reality. If you're a Net fan today and you're not worried about this team, you're not worried about James Harden, or you don't believe this is on James Harden, you're delusional. That's the reality. Because right now, this Nets team's playing terrible, and James Harden's playing terrible. He's lazy. He's lazy. He complains too much about fouls. He doesn't hustle, kind of the same thing that lays into lazy. And he's overall just not scoring at the same rate. And he's not shooting at the same rate. I mean, oh my goodness, 37 minutes and you score 4 points. That's like if you're 4 years old and you're playing basketball. You score about 4 points and you're happy about it. We're talking about an NBA player here who once was so dominant and who once was, that 1 year, he put up 30, that one season, he put up 36 points per game in 2018-2019 season. Last night scored 4 points. Last night was the boiling point. And if you look at his career numbers, which I'm going to show you in a second, if you're a Net fan and you're Sean Marks today, last night should should tell you why James Harden should not be on this basketball team anymore. James Harden needs to go. I am telling you right now, trade him immediately. Trade him. I'm tired of his nonsense, too, of not being on the court consistently. I'm tired of him in the press conference saying, I just want to win, or I want more consistency, or this team still. I'm tired of that. I'm also tired of hearing it's a process. I'm tired of that same narrative of, it's a process. We're still learning. We're still trying to get the same guys in here. You built a super team. There is no process to that. You went out, spent a ton of money, brought guys in, and they're superstars. That's what you did. A process is if you're bringing in young guys, developing them, seeing who fits, seeing who doesn't fit. Bringing in a super team is not a process. If you're still trying to figure out who player you play with best or who guys fit in the lineup, best, 40, what are the Nets? 29, 21, so what? What are they? They are 9, 30, 50 games into the season, right? Yeah, 50 games in the season. 50 games into the season, you're still not fully figured out who fits, who doesn't. There's problems. There's real big problems. Tired of hearing it's a process too. You built a super team. You should be winning. And right now, the Nets aren't winning. And right now, the Nets are only a half game out of having to play in the play-in game. I mean, it is getting bad, and it's getting bad quick. And before any of you go out, or any of these other NBA fans go out and say, the Big Three stinks and stuff, or all that. That's not true. That's not the point. Harden and Kyrie are really good. It's Harden that stinks. It's Harden that's terrible, and they're never healthy together. They're never on the court enough. This isn't Kevin Durant. And all the people that are saying, oh, James Harden is the most important piece of the team. Now does it show you that Kevin Durant is the most... This team has flopped since Kevin Durant got hurt. This team has completely flopped. This team has blown up since Kevin Durant got hurt. And you know who's not helping? James Harden. He's only helping with the losing. That's what he's doing. Get rid of him. Oh my God, I can't stand the guy. I can't stand him. I've lost hope. I've given up on James Harden. And if you're a Net fan today and you have a James Harden jersey, burn it. Please, burn it. He's terrible. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe that we actually gave up Jared Allen, Karis LeVert for this guy to come play basketball and play at the levels he's playing. I can't take it. I can't take it. My eyes cannot take James Harden. I can't watch James Harden anymore. The guy's awful. He's terrible. He's garbage. Get rid of him. I'm telling you right now, get rid of him. Last night should tell you a whole lot about the player he is nowadays. He's not the same player. Without free throws, he's not good. There's no structure to the offense when he's out there. Get rid of him. I'm going to give you some stats on James Harden here just to further my point as to why the Nets need to trade him and need to trade him right now because he's terrible. So James Harden stats this season, 2021-2022 season, he's averaging 37 minutes a game, 44 games played, field goal percentage of 41.4, three-point percentage of 33.2, free throw percentage of 86.9, points per game 22.5, assists 10.2, and rebounds 8. So I got to give it to him. His assists are up. He's second in the league in assists. That's one thing he does do. He does dish the ball out. At times, as he dish it out with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, yeah, but he does dish assists and he gets the ball, to teammates, and he's second in the league in that. So you got to give it to him there, and he has developed a little bit into that role since he got here. So those are his stats this season. Now, this is his stats last year with the Nets. This is only his stats last season with the Nets. He played 8 games with the Rockets last year, 36 games with the Nets. So this was his stats last year with the Nets, not with the Rockets. This was just with the Nets. He averaged 36.6 minutes per game, 36 games played, field goal percentage of 47.1, three-point percentage of 36.6, free throw percentage of 85.6, points per game 24.6, assists 10.9, and rebounds 8.5. So this season, he's got a worse field goal percentage, worse three-point percentage, worse points per game, or less points per game, less assists, and less rebounds per game than last year. Last year, he averaged 24.6 points per game. This season, he's only averaging 22.5. Last season, he averaged 10.9, 11 assists. This season, he's averaging 10. 8.5 rebounds to 8 rebounds. That's a little bit of a cheesy one. That's kind of it's kind of unfair, but still more this year. Now, these are the two big ones. Field goal percentage rather. This season, 41.4%. Last season, 47.1%. That's a whole 6% lower. That's alarming. That's not 1%. That's alarming. To almost shoot 50% last year and this season barely above 40%, that's alarming. That is really alarming. Three-point percentage last season was 36.6%. This year it's down to 33.2%. So yet again, almost at 40%. This year, just able to get over the 30% mark. That's also very concerning. Last season, also, he averaged 24 points per game. This season, he's down to 22, which is really low compared to his career. That's 25 points per game. So his career stats, 34.6 minutes per game. He averages 921 games played. This is our career stats. Field goal percentage of 44.3, three-point percentage of 36.2, free throw percentage of 85.9, points per game 25, assists 6.7, and rebounds 5.6. Those are his career numbers. His career field goal percentage 44.3 this season, down to 41.4%. So career higher than this season. Three-point percentage 36.2 this season, like I mentioned, 33.2. Points per game, he's only at, like I said, putting up 22.5 points per game. His career, he's a 25-point per game guy. His numbers are at career lows. His career numbers, he's getting terrible. I mean, a drop-off in field goal percentage like he has is, that's concerning. That is really, really bad. And I hope Sean Marks is looking at these numbers Because you're looking at these numbers, I see a guy that, number one, isn't the same player. Number two is lazy. Number three just isn't good enough. He just simply isn't good enough. At 32 years old, he's not good enough to win a championship. That's the reality. Go join some other team. Please, get out of here. I don't want to see you on this team anymore. It's so frustrating. He's terrible. The numbers show. The numbers show. Lower field goal percentage, lower three-point percentage, lower points per game in his career. Those are the three ones in his career. Now, from what last season? Lower field goal percentage, lower three-point percentage, lower points per game, lower assists, lower rebounds, all last year. So, the numbers speak for themselves. I got the numbers here. I'm not reading off a blank sheet. I'm reading off of the numbers that I took earlier today. And, it's just really, really painful that people still don't get why. I just don't know. And he said, too, he doesn't like living in Brooklyn either. So if he doesn't like living in Brooklyn, he's clearly not motivated. It's obvious. He doesn't want to be here. It's clear. And maybe that's just me being a fan speculating, but it's clear. It's obvious that he doesn't want to be here either. And I give you many reasons why. His body language, the way he's on the bench, and he's just, maybe I'm reading a little too into it. But, I recall the one moment against the Warriors. I don't know what it was. Either they had a big stop on defense or they made a little bit of a stretch run. And the entire bench was all pumped up. They were all on their feet and everything. Steve Nash was trying to get the team going. The defense, it was towards our comeback in the fourth quarter. Which, by the way, that was a tough and gritty performance. And James Harden's just sitting there with his wrist thingy on. Probably because he slept on it wrong. So he's like, oh, my wrist hurts. Probably he's making excuses again for the way he's playing. And he's sitting there, and he looks like he has no interest in. It looks like the team's all up on their feet, cheering on, and there James Harden's sitting there in his goofy outfit, watching the team. Get rid of him. I don't know how many more times I could say it today. I don't want to see James Harden in a Nets uniform anymore. I don't want to. And if he goes on and wins his championship, great. But I can't see that happening. And the rate we're going right now, and after last night's performance, how can you not be frustrated if you're a Net fan today? I don't know how you could be a Net fan today and back up and be okay with James Harden scoring 4 points last night. And another thing, too, I wanted to show you, too, is, which I think is mind-boggling. So last season total, he had, like I said, this is actually last season in terms of total, this is last season total, with the Rockets and the Nets. So last season he had combined Rockets and the Nets. What was it? 100. Hold on a second. 100. I got to do the math here. 143 plus 34. 177. So 212. Minus 177. So last season. Now, this is last season. From last season he played 40, how many games did he play? Last season he played 36 games with the Nets. Total he played 42 last year. Total last year he played 44 games. Now, total he played 44 games last season. Combined the Nets and this year. So this year he's played 44 games. Last season he played 44 games combined with the Rockets and the Nets, I believe, right? It was 44. It was something like that. If you combine those two, he has 35 more turnovers than he does this year. Now, 35 more turnovers this season than he did last season in the same amount of games. This season, if you just count from what he did on the Nets to this year, 69 more turnovers this season than he did with the Nets last year. So way more turnovers. Turning the ball over way more. You know what that shows me? A lot of laziness. A whole lot of laziness. And his career, he averages 3.8 turnovers per game. This season, he's averaging one more turnover per game. And that's a big amount. That's not crazy, but still, averaging one more whole turnover per game. My God, it's getting bad. It's real bad. And believe me, I watch it. If you don't watch it, you might not know how bad it is. Just look up Nets Kings highlights. 6 turnovers too last night. He had more turnovers than he did points. He had more turnovers last night than he did points. It's terrible. And just final stats I wanted to read you here. So these are the Nets' current projections, and I got to give credit to Raptor Projections, who does a really nice job with projecting things and they give you the outlooks on each team. So the 2021-2022 season. Now, I was trying to find what the beginning of the season projections were, and I couldn't find it. Struggled to find it. So these are the Nets projections right now for the rest of the year. So right now we stand 29 and 22 on the season, or what is it, 29 and so right now we stand 6-game losing streak. We're 29 and 22 on the season. So we're 51 games in. So 29 and 22. Our projected record to finish the year now is 46 and 36. So only 10 games above 500. I believe at the beginning of the season, people had us winning like 50 games. Now it's down to 46 and 36. Our chance of making the playoffs is still at 86%. We're going to make the playoffs, right? I think we will. But there's no doubt that we may not get the first round. Chance of playoffs, like I said, 86%. Chance of making it to the NBA Finals is 13%. And the chance of winning the NBA Finals all the way down to 6%. Like I said, if it's out there and you want to comment in the comment section down below, I would love to find that. I'm sure Raptor projections had it, but I was scrolling through the site and I couldn't find the beginning of the season projections because I wanted to compare the two. I know for a fact a lot of people have the Nets winning 50, 55 games this season, not 46. I can guarantee that. I don't know what our whole finals projections was and our whole winning the finals. That might have been up to maybe like 10%, but it's probably not a huge decrease because out of all the teams, to be like, if you have a 70% chance of winning the finals, that's just not accurate. But only 6%. Now our chance of winning the NBA Finals is only down to 6%. Practically, I think it should be down to 0 because I don't think we do it. So right now we stand as the 6th seed. We're 29-22 on the season. We're the 6th seed. Losing streak is 6, and we're 3.5 games back. And by the way, we are only a couple games back now of having to play in the play-in. We're only 2 games back of having to play in the play-in. Celtics right now are 5.5 games back, and they're at 28-25, and they're on a 3-game win streak. So if we do get a 9 or 10 seed, we're going to have to play in the play-in series. If the season were to end today, we'd have to play Philadelphia. And they're 31-20 on the season. They are on a losing streak of 1, and they're 1.5 games back. So it really is just crazy that a couple weeks ago, we were the 1 seed, and now we're a 6 seed, and we're just trying to stay into the playoffs and not have to play in a play-in series. And we've dropped all the way down to 10th in the NBA. So things are not looking good for the Brooklyn Nets or James Harden at all. And this is what he said yesterday about the possibility of them having a team. He said, we've done too much talking. We got to go out there and do it. We got to go out there and put up more than 4 points. I'll tell you that for sure. Alrighty, so let's see here. Alright, so let's get to the baseball lockout here. And end this segment on James Harden. Alright, so coming up next, I'm going to get to the MLB and their lockout situation. More craziness going on with the MLB and the lockout, and things are not looking good at all, and they continue not to look good. Why baseball, if they do have a pause or they don't play a season, why baseball could be in a really, really dark place after the lockout? I'll get to that and much more coming up next. Alright, so we welcome you back here up on this BSN Network podcast here today, Thursday, February 3rd. By the way, before I get to the MLB and the lockout, I wanted to also get to tomorrow. I'm going to talk about the Jets and the Senior Bowl. So I figured tomorrow, usually it's a Football Friday podcast, so I wanted to get to the Senior Bowl. I know a lot of people have been actually requesting for me to talk about the Senior Bowl. I will get to it. I figured the game's on Saturday, so I have already started some notes and started brainstorming of some of the players that, have been, key factors and some of the points and players I wanted to talk about and get to. And believe me, I've been following the coverage. I watched Salah's, press conference yesterday from the Senior Bowl, and I'll definitely be watching the game on Saturday. And I'll be watching the game on Saturday with an eye of looking for possible players that the Jets and even the Giants could possibly target from from a lens of just a football fan. So I will get to that tomorrow. Today I was debating about getting to it, but I figured this lockout story came out on 2 days ago. Senior Bowl is still yet to happen. Practice had been happening all this week. So I figured Friday's kind of like a practice recap, and you head into the game on Saturday. And I figured anyway on Friday, I usually talk football. It's been that way since September. Really since August with preseason. But, it's been that way since September. So I figured might as well, talk some football this weekend. And then next week will be a whole lot of football. We'll be breaking down the Super Bowl. I always do it every year. I'll do Wednesday's going to be the offensive rankings for the Bengals and the Rams. Thursday will be the defensive rankings for the Bengals and the Rams. And then Friday will be my game pick. So that will be next week. Will be all the Super Bowl coverage. And tomorrow I figured I was going to talk about the Senior Bowl and stuff like that. So today we're going to get to the Mlb Lockout, though, because the story that came out 2 days ago, as you all know, been a lot of sports going on. You had Brian Dable's interview, Tom Brady retiring. I forget, what did I talk about yesterday? Rangers midseason update. And with some of the shorter podcasts I've been doing, I've had less topics to get to in a podcast. So today I want to get to the MLB and the lockout and the continued debates and the continued conversations, or I don't even know if you want to call them conversation, the continued 5 minutes talks of the MLB and MLBPA, and then they leave and they don't get anything done of the MLB lockout. And MLB rumors, little progress made in labor talks, spring training delay, inevitable. Inevitable. I struggle with that word. I know you can make fun of me, roast me in the comments all you want. I struggle with that word. For some reason, I don't know why I can't talk about it. Either way, it pretty much means bound to happen. It's expected to happen. It's going to happen. You know what word I'm talking about. It's expected. And, this is the last thing we wanted. And I remember saying, so little progress, like I said, just to kind of give you the outline on, they had a talk on what? I think it was Tuesday. Tuesday they had the talking, and actually last meeting, believe it or not, they actually seemed to make some progress. They decided to meet again, and that was this week, and they made some progress, and it seemed like both sides were maybe heading a little bit of the right direction. And then this meeting on Tuesday, it's like no progress. There's no side coming to a deal or anywhere close to a deal. And I said in December when the lockout hit, what was it, like December 1st, I think lockout hit, I said, there's going to be some key dates that you're going to have to watch out for. And I said, the lockout right now, there's no, the season's not in jeopardy yet. But I said, if you come January time, things start to get a little interesting. Mid-January, I said, it's gonna be concerning. Then you can start to get to concern. I said, if you hit February, and I said, when you hit February, if there's no progress still made, which pretty much right now, there still is not much progress at all. Maybe there's a slight bit, but not much. Then the season's going to be truly in doubt. That's what I said. And I said, you come spring training time, and if there's no progress and there's no deal anywhere close, well, season's truly in doubt. Maybe the best you get is another 60-game season like the COVID year, 2 years ago. Or, no, a season ago in 2020, whatever it was. So, I said that. And now we're sitting here February 3rd, and there's still no new CBA. There still is no lockout ending. There still is both sides, the Players Association and the owners and Manfred, not getting along and they are negotiating, but not getting anywhere close to a deal. And now officially as baseball fans, now officially as a big baseball fan myself, and many of you who watch the show are big baseball fans as well, now it's time to truly get some concerned, and now it's time to truly prepare for either a shortened season or no season at all. Because spring training getting delayed is going to back up the entire season. Because you got to realize, these guys are athletes. These guys are pro players. They need time to ramp up. You can't just say, give me 2 days to ramp up and I'll be good to go. If spring training gets delayed, the entire season gets delayed. Pitching and catchers are supposed to report in, a couple weeks? And we're not even got a deal done. And baseball right now is heading into a really, really dark place. Because I continue to say, and I've said it a couple weeks ago when I talked about the other deal that was made, or that was proposed and there was nothing that happened. I said it a couple days ago, right? Or the other time I talked about, the MLB and the lockout. I said all these other sports got their stuff together, right? Basketball's rolling, football's rolling, hockey's rolling, all these other sports. Sure, they have negotiations here and there, but even COVID. I even go back to the COVID, and I continue to go back to the COVID season for each of the respective sports, right? Football had a little bit of the easier way because it wasn't right in the heat of it. They were able to get some time. They were able to really prepare. All the other teams, all their season got put on pause, right? Hockey, basketball, and it interrupted the start of the baseball season. And all these other leagues got up and going. Hockey had the bubble. It was successful. Bang. Baseball or basketball had the bubble as well. It was also successful. Football, went through a successful season. Minimal fans in summer stadiums, many stadiums without fans. Either way, it was a successful season. And it was baseball during that time of COVID that couldn't get their stuff together. It was baseball that spent weeks and weeks and weeks negotiating and spent countless and countless and countless hours and spent 2 months practically. They wasted 2 months from April to June. They wasted 2 months of negotiating. And they could have had what could have been, like I say, I keep saying it, 120 to 140 game season, maybe at a bubble site like in Arizona, the spring training facilities. Instead, they negotiated. They couldn't come to a deal because their contracts and all this other stuff. They only played 60 games. And that started in July. So while all the other sports were getting their stuff together and ran things smoothly, there was baseball that couldn't get their stuff right. And yet again, wow, surprise, shocking, here it is, baseball is struggling to get a season going, is struggling to get this CBA talks going, is struggling to get a new CBA done. All these other sports are great. Oh, football, you got the biggest game of the year, Super Bowl coming up. Basketball's, right in the midst, going into the All-Star break a little bit. Hockey's into the All-Star break. Everything's great. And here comes baseball along, got to mess it up. And they might not have a season. And I've said this so many times, right? As much as I love baseball, I have to admit it. I admit things, right? When I admitted with James Harden. As much as I'm a Net fan and I hope that they do well, James Harden's got to go and I can't stand the guy anymore. He's terrible. He's got to go. As much as I hope this team finds a way to get out of this, it's not going to happen. I can almost, and I don't think it's going to happen. Hey, maybe it will when Harden, KD comes back, but that's until after the All-Star break. We still got many games to go until February 17th, which is the last time until the All-Star break. So you know how I am. I'm honest. Whether I like the team, hate the team, like the league, hate the league, like the sport, hate the sport. I love baseball. I love watching baseball. I don't think it's boring at all. But a lot of people do. And baseball, like I say, ratings have already started to decrease. Football's the king. Basketball's right there behind it. Baseball's behind basketball, and hockey's really slightly behind baseball. I don't even think it's I don't think it's that deep, crazy of an argument even to say hockey might be gaining more popularity right now than baseball. I don't think that's a crazy argument to say. Because baseball, number one, the sport, a lot of people find it boring. And number two, when you have stuff like this where neither side can come to a deal and they're not going to have a season, it could really get hurt. And that's my main point here. Baseball's going to go into a dark place, a really dark place, if they don't have a season. Even if spring training gets delayed, baseball is going to be in a dark place. Because when you have a sport that already, the ratings it has shown, attendance has been down, TV ratings has been down. When you have a sport that's already decreasing in ratings and decreasing in attendance, and just overall the fan, is decreasing. Not many people watching baseball as it once was. Baseball was America's game. Baseball was once America's game. Baseball was the most popular sport. It was America's pastime. Baseball was the sport. Now it's football. And baseball's third and maybe going to fourth if they can't get out of this lockout. And the reason it's going to go into a dark place, and the reason I feel like baseball already is in a dark place, is because the fans are sick and tired of the same thing about neither side getting along. Manfred with his craziness, and Manfred with his stupid quotes saying, oh, if we have a lockout this season, it might prevent further lockouts in the future. If baseball has a lockout, baseball will probably be the least popular sport out of the four major sports. Hockey will probably go in front of baseball. NFL will dominate. NBA will be behind it. Then it will be hockey. And baseball will be down there at 4. And there's a good chance baseball will continue to decrease. Because fans like me are really, really frustrated that these two sides just cannot come to an agreement. And it just goes to show you that Manfred and these players and the owners really don't care about the fans. They really don't care about the fans. They could care less about the fans. All they care about is the money, and all they care about is how much money they're going to get and all that stuff. That's all they care about. Manfred could care less about the fans. Because if he really cared about the fans, maybe he would give in a little bit. Maybe he would say, look, guys, sense of urgency here. Let's get something done. Instead, no, it's okay if we have a lockout. It's okay if we have no season. It's not. Because I'll tell you what, if you have no season, baseball is going to drop a whole lot. It's already dropping. It's going to pretty much get destroyed if you don't have a season. And right now, we're pretty darn close to no spring training. We're pretty darn close to a spring training delay. It's expected. It's going to happen. And if spring training gets delayed, then that delays the season. And the further that goes on, the further you get no season at all. And even if you do have a season, it's only 100 games. You know how much that's going to frustrate fans? I think Manfred's quote really just frustrates fans. Frustrates me. The fact that he said, it's okay if there's a lockout. It's all right. It's great. Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. So when your sport is not getting the ratings, when your sport's not pumping out the revenue like it once was, when nobody's showing up to the games, when jersey sales are down, you can go back to this. If baseball goes into a lockout and if spring training and the season does get delayed, because we're getting pretty gosh darn close to it, baseball is going to be in a dark place. And baseball, already going like this, is going to go like that. And it's going to go fast. MLB rumors, little progress made in labor talks, spring training delayed, expected. Don't expect spring training to start on time. ESPN's Jeff Passan reported Tuesday's meeting between Major League Baseball and the MLBPA ended with little progress and a delay feels inevitable. Passan added, the on-time opening of spring training at this point is in grave danger and frankly would take a miracle deal coming together to rescue. John Heyman of MLB Network echoed those sentiments, reporting both sides are disappointed after a union offered small concessions such as decreasing the bonus pool from $105 million to $100 million compared to the league's suggested total of $10 million. Joe Sherman of the New York Post used a football analogy to illustrate the situation. So this is what Joel Sherman said. One gaining 1 yard on 3rd down and 15 is better than no yards or a loss, but still sets up 4th and 14. That's what it feels like has happened to date in MLB and the MLBPA negotiations for a new CBA. Moving inches toward each other, then yards are needed if spring camps are to open on time, February 16th. Yeah, I mean 14 days. In 13 days, pitchers and catchers are supposed to report. In 13 days. That ain't happening. He also reported the union is looking for more money for players with 0 to 3 years of service time, less punishment for those teams that go into the luxury tax territory, and higher thresholds for luxury taxes. According to Bob Nightingale of USA Today, the two sides are still far apart on bonus pool and service time issues. What's more, Tuesday's meeting did nothing to decrease the differences in propositions for minimal salary. $775,000 to $615,000 and luxury tax $245 million to $214 million. ESPN's Jesse Rogers ran through a timeline of when various dates will be in jeopardy and noted a deal will likely need to be reached by February 19th for scheduled February 26th spring training games to begin. He said that opening day on March 31st will be at risk if there isn't a deal in place by March 3rd. So in a month, if there is no deal in a month, which might seem like a long time, but I said that in December, and look, we're sitting here February 3rd, and there still is no deal. Then spring training, then opening day will be in jeopardy. The lockout has no end in sight. The players have rejected multiple proposals from the league and made some counter proposals, while the league apparently isn't pleased with how Tuesday's discussion unfolded. The two sides will need to come together soon if the season is going to unfold as scheduled. Especially since off-season tasks such as signing free agents still need to be completed. Yeah, I mean, Carlos Correa is still a free agent. There's still some trade possibilities. I mean, there's still some teams with incomplete rosters. I mean, if you get a deal done the day before pitchers and catchers report, you get a deal done the day before spring training, the day before March 3rd, or the day before spring training games like February 25th, then, I mean, you're going to be in a big issue. Because then you got to sign these guys, rush these guys into camp, rush these guys into spring training, get these guys going, and that also could cause injuries. I mean, you're only hurting yourself. And it's on both sides. Look, Manfred's, I'm getting tired of him too. I mean, I know I stood kind of on his side a little bit during the COVID stuff. But even the players too, I mean, wanting all this money. Look, if you really love the game, just go out there and play. I don't really care about the contracts and stuff. That doesn't really bother me. But it does get to a point where if you love the game so much, just go out there and play. And for Manfred, if you love the fans so much, if you talk about the fans so much and doing what's best for the league, if that's the case, doing what's best for the league is getting a season and playing a season. Best for the league is not doing a lockout, I can guarantee you that. If you have a lockout, you're in big trouble. So, MLB still, the MLB's got a lot. And they got a lot to get to. And right now, it doesn't look good, and it looks really bad. And, I don't know if there's an end in sight. I definitely can't. I don't see it. And the longer and longer and longer this goes on, the longer and longer it's going to take for a season to start. And the further and further and further, this is going to push the season and the possibility of having no season at all. And I don't know what I'm going to be able to do without baseball. I mean, it's just so frustrating. It really is just frustrating because it's like you can't get a deal. Like, what's so hard about this? I know there's a lot, but if you love the game so much and you care about the fans so much, talking about both sides here, you'd give in a little bit and get a deal done so you could play the sport that you supposedly love. Come on. Step up to the plate and do something here. I mean, Manfred needs to be better. Players Association need better. Both sides need better. This is on both sides. This isn't just on one side or the other. I mean, I definitely think Manfred's terrible. I'll tell you that for sure. But both sides definitely. Step up and do something. Because I'm telling you what, there is no season. MLB is going to be in a real dark place. And deservedly so. I mean, if MLB has no season, perfectly fine if fans stop watching. I mean, I wouldn't, but I'm right there with you. I would agree with you. I stand with those fans if they're not watching the games after the lockout. I do. Because, I mean, I'm going to watch the games, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't disagree at all. I understand. They clearly don't care about the fans. They clearly don't care about where the sport's headed. The sport's been headed, and rightfully so, because when you have Manfred, a commissioner like that, rightfully so the ratings and attendance are going to be down, because you don't trust anybody. And it's clear that the league doesn't care about the fans. It's clear. It is so obvious. It's clear as day. And the lockout continues. And MLB is only heading into a dark place. Alrighty, so that's what I got for the MLB and the lockout. It's really not looking good. It really is frustrating. I just don't know how hard it is to just come to a deal. If you love the sport so much, get to a deal and get something done. Alright, so let's get to the New York sports update and finish things off here today. Like I said, 6 NBA games on tonight. We got the Heat Spurs. I'll give Heat the win. Timberwolves Pistons. Give me the Timberwolves. Raptors Bulls. I'll take the Bulls. Suns Hawks. Give me the Suns. Kings Warriors. I'll take the Warriors. And Clippers Lakers. I will take the Clippers. That's always a funny game because it's at Crypto.com Arena, right? I was going to say Staples Center, but Lakers play there and so do the Clippers, so that's always a funny game. It's the same arena for both teams, but I'm going to give the Clippers to win, similar to when the Jets and Giants play. 3 games on tonight in the college basketball AP Top 25. Arizona, UCLA. Give me UCLA. Gonzaga, San Diego. I'll take Gonzaga. And USC, Arizona State. I will take USC. As for the NHL, nothing on tonight. Like I said last night, the Islanders got shut out, but nothing going on tonight in the world of the NHL as the All-Star break comes around the corner. By the way, on my ESPN, on my fantasy, so my fantasy team name was KD Harden season. And I had a picture of Kevin Durant, James Harden, because Kyrie, obviously, that was before Kyrie came back. I was believing. I was hoping that it would go my way. So after last night, after his performance, James Harden completely stinks. He's terrible. I don't want to see him in a Nets uniform anymore. I changed my name to Trade James Harden on fantasy basketball. And I made my profile picture the picture of him where he was like really pretty fat on the Rockets. And I put that as my picture on fantasy. And I'm super pumped up about it because he deserves it. He's terrible. He's not playing good. After a 4-point performance like that, he should not be on the team anymore. As for fantasy basketball, though, to get to the actual matchup, I am winning 511 to 388. Today I've got going Buddy Hield, John Collins, and Rashawn Holmes. So, if dribble, fat. James Harden. That's James Harden for you. That's pretty much James Harden and his Nets tenure summed up. I keep recapping. I just keep recapping the game. Oh my God. 4 points in 37 minutes. I mean, if that doesn't say something, I don't know what does. The Nets need to get rid of James Harden. And for those of you who are wondering, who... I'm not a huge fan of Simmons. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm not a huge fan. But what I will tell you is this. I would take Simmons right now. The only issue I have with Simmons is how he'd be in the locker room. But the more and more I do think about it, Harden can't play defense. He stinks at defense, which is something we've known his whole career. And the Nets have been terrible on defense recently and all season long. So, possibility there of Harden, if we trade him. But I mean, I'd be okay if we trade Harden to 76ers right now. and get Simmons and Matisse Thybulle in return. I'd be fine with that. Maybe a draft pick. I'd be perfectly okay with that. I'd trade Harden for a low amount right now because he's not playing well. And is he really going to play that much? I just don't think Harden's the same player he once was. I don't think he's as motivated as we'd really like him to be. But I also think it's a lot of he's just not the same player and he's just not playing well. So, and that's a lot of it too. Go wherever you want. Go wherever you want. And if you don't like living in Brooklyn, most of these other cities out there aren't much nicer or better either. So it's just a very bad situation, and I'd be fine to trade him right now. I mean, I'd love a trade to happen now. For who? It's kind of up there. I know the Sixers are the main team. All I can tell you is this: if we don't trade him this year and we don't win the finals, he's going to test free agency. He's going to go sign somewhere else. It's clear. It's clear. It's so obvious. Where that team is, I have no clue. We'll see. So, anyway, that'll do it for the podcast. It's a 55-minute one, so not an hour one today. It was pretty quick. I don't know why it wasn't. Usually I do hours, but kind of just got my points across. Harden I talked pretty quick with, so it was only about 30 minutes, and then the baseball thing, it took about 20 minutes there. So, that'll do it. Anyway, for the podcast here today, about 20 minutes of talking for each of them. Yeah, that'll do it. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Like I said, tomorrow I think might be a little bit of a shorter pod tomorrow, so I might only talk about the Senior Bowl. I'm going to talk about Senior Bowl, but depending on timing, I don't know if I'm going to do 2 topics or however that might be. But either way, that'll do it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.